This part is called First Light. The jackal bared his teeth and growled low and evil. His eyes glowed red in the firelight. He stood as tall as Jotham. His splotchy black fur hung on his bony frame like moss on a dead tree. The beast was starving and had just found food. Jotham's chest heaved with every terrified beat of his heart. He wanted to scream, but all his screams were caught inside his throat. Run, he kept thinking to himself, but his legs refused. The jackal leaped through the air. Now Jotham turned to run, but it was too late. He had gone only a single step when a red-hot iron clamped around his right leg and knocked him crashing into the ground. Fire exploded in every nerve, and finally he screamed. Claws dug into his bare leg now, and then the jaw clamped down once more. Jotham fought to roll onto his back, then kicked at the bloody face. But the demon was stronger and pinned Jotham to the ground with 300 pounds of muscle. Bared teeth hovered over Jotham's face now, and he saw his own blood dripping from their needle-like points. The stench of breath and fur filled Jotham's nose, but he didn't have time to care, because now the jackal let out one great long victory howl, and then plunged his teeth deep into Jotham's throat. Ow! Jotham sat bolt upright, slapping at the sting of his neck. He blinked rapidly in the harsh sunlight, and his eyes watered in pain. He pulled his hand away from his neck, and through blurry eyes saw the smashed remains of a wasp lying in his palm. It was all a dream. Jotham laughed to himself. His heart was beating fast. He was breathing in giant gasps, but it had only been a dream. There was no jackal, no fight with his father, no lost family. Still groggy, Jotham pulled himself to his feet and brushed off the dirt. Why was I lying next to the water hole, he wondered, and why was I asleep in the dirt in the middle of the day? Then he saw the pile of stones, and in one awful reality he knew. It hadn't all been a dream. The jackal had never attacked, that was true, but he really was alone. He really was lost. He really was hungry. Jotham wandered through the bare campsite. At daylight, it wasn't nearly as frightening, but it was still deserted. He couldn't figure out why his parents had gone. Even if Jotham had been killed, that was no reason to move the whole camp. But something in the back of his brain kept gnawing at him. It seemed as if a couple times in the last few weeks he had heard his parents talk of moving the camp. He never paid attention to their conversations, of course. Adults talk about such dull things, but it seemed like there was something important that they were concerned about, some reason they had to move. No matter, Jotham sighed. The fact was they were gone and he was alone. Now he would have to find them, since they didn't know that he was alive and wouldn't be looking for him. But which way did they go? The camp had been built close to a main road. Where it came from and where it went, Jotham had no idea. But many caravans passed each month. He studied the tracks on the road for a long time, trying to figure out which way his family had gone. But it was impossible. The winter wind had mixed all the tracks together, so now he had to make a decision. Go left or go right? No matter what he had told his father, Jotham hated making decisions, especially when there was no way to know the right thing to do. Finally, he decided to go to his right, toward where the sun rose each morning. So after taking a long drink at the watering hole and tying his scratchy little blanket around his waist, he started walking. Jotham liked walking on roads. Most shepherds liked to stay out in the hills, wandering from this place to that, not really caring where they were, but roads took you from one place to another place, and Jotham liked that. He liked having a specific purpose to his walking. Of course, Jotham had no idea what the specific place this road came from, or where it went to, and he had no idea if he was following his family or walking away from them. He could only hope and pray. He had only been walking about an hour when the pain of his stomach began to overpower him. I've got to find some food, he thought. But where? The sides of the road were bare and rocky. A few bushes pushed their way up through the rocks, but they were all brown and bare in the coolness of the winter. Suddenly, Jotham forgot all about his aching stomach. He had just climbed a short hill when he saw that the road ahead of him entered a narrow canyon. Sharp rocks stuck out in all angles, creating dozens of places to hide. Jotham knew his father worried at places like this and would always make the caravan move in close together. These were the kinds of places where robbers hid. Usually they'd leave a large caravan alone, but Jotham remembered one time when 3 men had attacked one of his uncles, stolen his purse, and vanished into the hills before anyone else could help. So what chance does a 10-year-old boy have, Jotham thought. By now the hunger had made Jotham's head feel like it was floating. The empty feeling went clear from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head, and there was an awful buzzing sound in his ears. As he got closer to the canyon, his heart began to pound in his chest. He tried to look between the rocks ahead, searching for any sign of robbers, but couldn't quite get his eyes to focus. He passed from the sunlight into the shadows of the canyon, and the walls themselves seemed to be alive. It felt as if they were moving in closer with every step he took, moving in to crush him between their craggy fingers. Sounds seemed to echo off the walls, strange sounds, awful sounds, scary sounds. Jotham tried to follow the sounds with his eyes, tried to look at every rock and crevice at once. He spun this way and that, imagining at every turn a thief jumping at him with a knife drawn and a sneer on his lips. "Jehovah, save me!" Jotham screamed, and his scream scared a flock of birds out of their hiding place. They flew past Jotham's head, and he swatted at them and screamed again. Then he turned toward the other end of the canyon and started running. He ran from the birds and from the robbers he'd imagined, and from the evil canyon walls. He ran and he cried and he screamed, but just as he thought he was about to safety, when the end of the canyon was steps away, a man with a long black beard jumped out from behind the rocks and landed right in front of Jotham. Jotham screamed and tried to jump to the side, but he tripped and fell and struck his head on a rock, and everything went black. Jotham moaned and gently rubbed his head. His eyes fluttered open, and all he could see was the face of a man with a long black beard. Jotham tried to pull away, but the man held his arm tightly. "There, there, little one, be at peace," he said softly. Seeing the smile on the man's face, Jotham calmed a little and stopped struggling. There was a bright glow around the man's head, and his face beamed with kindness. "I heard you call the name of Jehovah," he said gently, "and so I came." And the next part of the story you can watch tomorrow.